wasn't expecting an Amazon package today. NHK people are scary. And you may be asking, why am I in my PJ? Well, it's because this is what the NHK man saw when I opened up the door. Normally, this would scare people off. I'm in my PJs. Hell, I could be nude. But this man was persistent because he still tried to get inside. Now, if that doesn't show that NHK people are scary, then what will? Alright, so let me tell you the story of the NHK person. This was literally 30 minutes ago, so it's fresh in my mind, and I wanted to record this before it just, because I have bad memory. Oh, and I got changed because I was self-conscious about my pajamas, but pajamas are cool. You should always wear pajamas. This will probably be cut from the video. Anyway, I am playing Super Auto Pets this morning, and I hear my little, I'll just show you. I hear this thing buzzing. I hear that thing buzzing. And so I press it, because usually that means Amazon package. Usually. It's Pavlov. I press the button, I get an Amazon package. That's how it feels. I did order Amazon packages, but they aren't supposed to come until tomorrow. So something was fishy about this button press. But Pavlonian instinct, I pressed the button anyway. I press the button, doorbell rings, but another red flag. I have contactless delivery from Amazon. That means they're not supposed to press the doorbell. That's not always the case, because some Amazon people ignore that and still press the doorbell just to let you know they're there. But I was really concerned. I already knew something was off about this doorbell push, because Amazon didn't send me an email. I'm not supposed to get the packages till tomorrow, so I was like, you know, we'll follow it through. I walk over to the door. I stop playing Super Auto Pets. Tragic. I walk over to the door, and I reluctantly open the door to see a happy man. He was probably about my age, to be honest. He looked relatively chill. He looked like a cool dude, to be honest. He was nice. He had a big smile on his face. Well, he had a mask on, but you can see like the eyes do the smile thing. And he starts talking really fast Japanese. I understand most of what he's saying. He asked me, he's like, oh, you're a foreigner and you live in Japan. Do you live here? I'm like, yeah, I live here. You just rang my doorbell. What do you mean, do I live here? So he's saying all this stuff to me really fast. And I'm just like, And then he grabs the door. His hand grabs the door. And this is where I knew. I was like, oh, I've heard stories about this. This is probably an NHK man. And he grabs the door and he asks, may I come inside? And I was like, no. I was like, no, you cannot come inside. But thank you for offering. But he's still holding on to the door. I say no. He still holds onto the door. And he's like, oh, it's okay. And he shows me his badge. He's like, it's okay. I'm NHK. You can let me in. And I was like, no. I was like, no, you cannot come inside. That doesn't change anything. In fact, that makes it worse. I say no the second time. You cannot come in. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, I understand. And he gives me a clipboard with all this NHK stuff on it. But it's not a flyer. It's not a piece of paper. It's a heavy-duty clipboard that if I took it, I'd feel like I was stealing. And this is on purpose. And he gives me this clipboard and he says, and he's still holding on to the door. This is a mental trick. Now I can't close the door because I have one of his property, right? I have one of his possessions. If I close the door, I'm technically stealing right now. Or I'd feel like I was stealing. He did give it to me, but there's probably some laws that I don't understand because I haven't looked at a lot of Japanese laws. Anyway, he gives me this clipboard and now I can't close the door. I have one of his prized possessions and his hand is still on the door, so that's also preventing me from closing the door. So I come up with a trick. What if I give the clipboard back? What if I give him the clipboard back, right? And so I try that. And this, NHK people are smart. I just have to give it to him. I tried to hand the clipboard back. I was like, no, dozo. I was like, Please take this. And they just straight up, they act like you don't exist. They just keep talking. They don't reach out for the clipboard. His hands were still like in his bag. One hand was on the door. He was not gonna take that clipboard back. And it's really genius strategy, to be honest. But I'm trying to hand him the clipboard over and over. He's just still talking. Not making an effort, not even looking down at the clipboard. They're trained. It's impressive. So I come up with a plan B. Plan A, give the clipboard back. Boo-boo, did not work. Plan B, what if I don't have the clipboard? What if I don't even have his property? It's not in my apartment. Then I can close the door, right? I can slam it shut. Even with his hand there, he'll probably move it. That's plan B. And so I'm trying to like find a place to put the clipboard on his body while he's talking. I'm trying to think, where can I balance this clipboard? Because his hand's in his bag, so I can't like balance it on his other arm. He doesn't have anything on the front of him. I could put it on his head, but that's kind of invasive. There was one weakness to his plan. The arm on the door, it's still there. It's still extended and on my door. So that's what I do. I put the clipboard on his extended arm and it's like balancing on his arm. And then I try to close the door and he can't hold the door because he has his clipboard on his arm. So he has to pull back and then I just close the door. I heard him say, "Oh," and then the door shut and the NHK man was gone. Overall, it was an interesting experience. I don't think he's a bad guy. That's his job. Like I said, he seemed like a friendly kid, but NHK people are very persistent. It would have been scary for other people. I was laughing. When I closed the door, he could probably hear me laughing. I was dying laughing. But for other people who don't understand the situation, or who are uncomfortable with little confrontations like that, they might not do that. They might let them inside just to be polite. Don't do that, because this guy was already persistent at my door. I can't imagine what he would do inside. And with the amount of Japanese he's speaking, all you can really do as someone who barely speaks Japanese is say yes. Like yes, no, leave, please. If he comes inside, there's really no way of getting him out until you sign something. So this is my experience, my first experience with an NHK man. Not that pleasant, not that bad either. Kind of a fun story. I'm glad I can make this video about it. I think next time an NHK person comes to my door, I have a different plan for them. It's not anything illegal, but it'll be exciting. Anyway, hope you have a good day. It's fun making videos like this. And if you live in Japan or you're planning on moving to Japan, just be careful. And don't sign anything. Especially don't sign anything if you don't know what you're signing. But even more so, NHK people, just ignore them. All right, bye-bye.